Well, we are one day away from the official 1 year anniversary of the unfortunate October 7th events. And already domestically, just here in Canada, things are getting absolutely insane, out of control in two major places within this country. You have Ottawa and you have Toronto, where protests have just erupted and there was chaos, and it was really, really intense. We're going to take a look at that. It's adding on to the video I posted yesterday, but there's also been another development in terms of the ongoing conflict in the Middle East and how now the next step is the unfortunate nuclear term, right? There were prior warnings for Israel that if you strike Iran again, we're using nukes, and that just happened. So that's not really good. And that happened moments before the Donald Trump rally, where he had Elon Musk come on and talk in the place where Donald Trump was shot in the head and luckily survived. So there's a whole lot of news here, folks. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another video. Before we get into it, I do want to encourage you all to smash the like button and subscribe if you haven't already. It does really help grow the channel. And since we are talking about just conflicts and escalating, I do have some advice for those who just aren't really prepared for when it seems like inevitably shit hits the fan. Just make sure you have extra rations, right? Canned beans, some rice, some potatoes, because you just don't know what's gonna happen. And I know it's funny, people laugh at it, but hey man, look what happened during the blip. It was pretty much as expensive to own toilet paper as gold was. So yeah, just put that into perspective. But aside from, talking about how to prepare and how to protect yourself in person, we also have to talk about how to protect yourself online digitally. And the best example I have for that is actually today's sponsor, Private Internet Access. I'd like to thank today's sponsor, Private Internet Access. We've teamed up together and we're offering my audience 83% off for using code SUNSHINE, which can be found linked down below in the description or the pinned comment below. It's no surprise that we're living in a time of censorship, and Canada is unfortunately leading that race because of Justin Trudeau. Now, Justin Trudeau wants to make sure that you can't see the news. He wants to make sure that you can't see certain content on streaming platforms like Netflix, Hulu, Crave, and you shouldn't have Disney Plus because, of course, our finance minister said if you can't afford things, you should cancel Disney Plus. So the way around this is through a VPN such as Private Internet Access. Now, for those who don't know what a VPN is, it's a way to encrypt your data, basically putting a cloak over you so that you can freely browse the internet without feeling like your personal information is at risk or the government getting and selling your personal information. And the best way that I like to go about this, the best cloak that I like to put over myself, is Private Internet Access, which again can be found linked down below in the description or the pinned comment below for 83% off. Thank you, Private Internet Access, for sponsoring this video. All right, without further ado, let's get into this video. So we've got to look at the polls here. You got Pierre Poilievre sitting at 221 projected seats with a bottom line of 195 and a top end of 246. Justin Trudeau at 61 projected seats. The Bloc at 42, and itty bitty man, a small man with a small number, Jagmeet Singh with the NDP at 17 projected seats. I zoom in, not to be condescending. I would never do that to you, Jagmeet. And then you have 99% likely across the board for the Conservatives of winning the most seats, and odds of a majority government are also 99%. So that is looking phenomenal. Now, what's not looking phenomenal is this conflict in the Middle East, which is what we're going to be taking a look at. And then we're going to take a look at the Donald Trump rally. And then we're going to take a look at the protests that occurred in Canada. So here we go. You have the Iranian military on X saying, if provoked again, we will retaliate with an unimaginable level. And they have since been provoked. So I can only imagine we're going to see the unimaginable level coming next. Iran did launch some drones to Israel, but they actually didn't hit the actual borders of Israel. They were shot off of the coast and never actually made it. But right before the rally took place for Donald Trump, you had a new wave of attacks in Beirut, Lebanon, where Israel just bombed the absolute crap out of it. And they actually hit a lot of weapons depots, which is why you saw such massive explosions, like just horror in the streets. And this is something that was actively promoted by Donald Trump and just America in general, was to go after the weapons depot, the nuclear projects, and also their oil, which is probably something we're going to see happen in this coming week. But more on what's going on here. So you have the Israeli Defense Force has announced that following information received from military intelligence, you have a series of precision strikes that were carried out last night against Hezbollah weapons storage facilities, as well as other military infrastructure targets in the southern suburbs of Beirut. So actual confirmation that, yes, indeed, it was weapons depot that were hit. And then you also have, according to the New York Times, all of the Iranian armed forces have been placed on the highest state of alert in anticipation for Israel's retaliatory strike, possibly targeting their oil and naval facilities. And that's kind of what everyone's anticipating next. But in the meantime, you have a scary reality here. So Iran is closing their airspace in the west of the country from today until the 9th of October because, you know, they're being bombed and they're likely going to launch a counter, which is going to get countered. And this is all happening in a matter of, 48 to 72 hours. And as you can see here, you can see that there is significantly less traffic. It's really only military, aircrafts that are in that space right now. And so it really feels like this is it, folks. This is going to be potentially something that we've never seen. We've already reached actually that title, right? With the recent retaliatory response that Iran launched on Israel, the 180 plus ballistic missiles, some hypersonic, some not, that all hit different parts of Israel, allegedly targeting mostly military areas, but also hitting some like apartment buildings and stuff like that, which I don't know if they've actually killed anybody. There's a lot of mixed reports, but I think the consensus is little to no casualties, if any, really at all. That was the largest bombardment that we have ever seen, ever. And, it's only going to escalate from here. So, yeah, not looking good at all. And then when you add in this to the mix here, China, Russia, Pakistan, Bangladesh declared their full support to Iran. So, yes, it seems like we are absolutely screwed. 100%. Something big is going to happen, which is probably why you see a rise of these protests taking place across the world. But we're going to be focusing on Canada, obviously, for, the fact that this is a Canadian channel and I'm Canadian. But nonetheless, let's take a look at what happened at the Donald Trump rally for those that missed it. So they had snipers on the roof this time. Good job, fellas. And then you have, just a sheer massive crowd, something that we've never seen at a rally before. Like, that is insanely impressive. I'm sure security was geared up right to the T. And then you have someone has an Oilers jersey at the Trump rally. You can see right there. And then I actually spotted before Donald Trump even came on, I actually noticed this right here. Someone had behind the stage had a bandage on their ear. And I posted this on my X account. I mean, everyone is just loving and supporting Donald Trump, obviously, at his rally. And then you had this very, extremely emotional moment where an artist unveiled his mural of Corey, who was the firefighter who lost his life at the last rally in this location, at the last Donald Trump rally. And it was just a beautiful moment, right? So slowly unveils it, and there he is. And he even had a rest his soul, right? Rest in peace. He even had a reserved seat out in the crowd, which was just absolutely phenomenal. And Donald Trump did an amazing job of, having a moment of silence for him and acknowledging his family. And just, it was just all around extremely beautiful. And then you had Elon Musk, who showed up with a Make America Great Again, a black hat. And he actually, there's this very iconic photo of him jumping for joy like a child behind Donald Trump, which is, it's awesome. I love Elon Musk personally, huge fan, but he is just like a massive dork, and it's great. That's why we love him. He's a kid with trillions potentially of dollars and a very influential person in an adult body, which is just, I mean, what a time to be alive to witness all this happen. But the dark MAGA is something that he actually acknowledged on stage.
As you can see, I'm not just MAGA, I'm dark MAGA.
We're all living in Elon Musk's world. And then you had the iconic Donald Trump dance to the YMCA. Obviously, I can't play the music for obvious reasons. And that was phenomenal. I mean, I watched this on my TV in the living room, and I was extremely stoked by the end of it. I felt extremely patriotic, and I'm not even American. That's how great the speech was. And then you have Donald Trump just kind of trolling the Matrix, or just trolling the system in general. He had this to say at one point in his speech.
As I was saying,
and he points to the chart that he pointed to originally when he, several months ago, and then got shot in the head. So that's why it started off with, as I was saying, to kind of pick up where he left off, which is just insane and like super cool for him to do that. But the whole consensus of everything from this, the biggest takeaway was go out and vote. Make sure you vote. And even Elon Musk, he used his microphone time to say, text your friends right now, go out and vote. Like, I'm serious. Text them right now. Go register to vote. And this is just so applicable to what's going on here in Canada as well. We just all need to make sure that we get out and vote, because this is so polarizing. Everybody is fed up with what's going on. And the only way we're really going to make a difference and get some changes if we actually all go out and vote. But here, let's just take a moment to listen to what Donald Trump had to say.
So 12 weeks ago, we all took a bullet for America, and all we are all asking is that everyone goes out and votes. We got to win. We can't let this happen to our country. We can't take another 4 years like this. We won't have a country left. We're not going to have a country left. And all of this will be for nothing if you don't get out and vote. It will all be for nothing. We will have talked about it, and if we do it, it'll be the greatest achievement, I think, in the history of politics for all of us for this age. Because we're going to change our country around and fast. We're going to do things that nobody thought were possible. We're going to do them fast. So Pennsylvania, it's time to stand up for America and time to save our country. This is really about saving our country. It's never been like this. When you look at the crime, look at the crime. Look at the people that are coming in, murderers. 13,099 murders let in over the last short period of time. Murderers that have been released from penitentiaries, prisons, jails, released into our country. Crime rates all over the world are down. They're taking their gang members and their criminals. They're taking their people in jail. And
I mean, as you can see, we're just going to kind of stop it there. But it's just so applicable to pretty much everything that's going on here in Canada with its own American spin on things. But I'd like to pass the question off to you. Did you watch the rally? If you did, what are your takeaways? And if you didn't watch it, kind of just based off of what you've seen, what are your takeaways from this? Are you pro-Trump? Are you against them? Let me know your reasoning down below in the comments. And now let's take a look at some kind of smaller stories about Canadian stuff, but more interesting, Belize. Belize is in the news for Canada because for those who don't know, Toronto Transit Commission, I think that's what TTC stands for, the poles look like this. In fact, this is one of the poles stolen from Toronto with the actual bus route was taken from Toronto. I mean, kind of weird, but also kind of cool that you see, like, if you're from Toronto, if you've ever been to Toronto, you've ever seen these things. I mean, I grew up with these, so this is wild to see that in all places of Belize. And then you have this report here by the Six Buzz saying 6.5 million Canadians are currently without a family doctor. And I actually don't believe that. I think that is significantly higher. And as you can see by my reply here, I said I feel like it's much higher than this. And as you can see further down, Justin Trudeau did that. But I've said this before, and I'll say it again. Like myself and my family, we don't have family doctors. I once upon a time did, and that's when I was living. I think it was right when I started living in a van, but then I moved around, and it's just you can't transfer because you need availability to where you're transferring. And we've been on a wait list for like 3 years or 4 years now, almost, and still nothing. So kind of crazy, but nonetheless, let me know down in the comments, how do you feel about that? Do you have a family doctor? Do you not have a family doctor? I just feel like it's over 6.5 million. I almost want to say 1 in 4 Canadians. So about 10 million, maybe a little bit more than 10 million don't have family doctors. But again, that's just, my own opinion, and I could very well be wrong. Now let's take a look at what happened in Toronto and Ottawa. So you have the smallest group of protesters were actually in support of Israel. So a small pro-Israel counter-protest across the street from International Day of Action, which is what this weekend, I guess, was about, was International Day of Action for Palestine, of declaring Palestine a state. So we're going to call for blood in the streets. I'm not really sure what this was about. But as you can see, about a dozen, maybe more people. And now we're going to take a look at the overwhelming amount of numbers from the pro-Palestine side of things. Karima is saying this here: handmade signs made available to protesters at the International Day of Action rally for Palestine. Free Palestine, queer as in free, long live the resistance. Like, it just seems so wild to see these types of messages portrayed in the streets of Canada. And then above and beyond things, you have kids that are attending these right here, and they're being, all done up the way that adults are showing, with the scarves or whatever they're called, the keffiyehs, around their heads, so that they can only see the eyes. And I mean, it's wild, right? It's so wild that even Jewish conservative female MP Melissa Lantsman chimed in on this kind of now going viral clip of people that were denied access to Parliament, right, the Hill, for these protests because they didn't recognize Palestine as a state. The officer, the parliamentary officer, asked them, "Do you recognize Palestine as a state?" And I guess at some point they had said no, and so they were denied access because it would be deemed too controversial and incite some form of violence. That seems really, really bizarre that would ever take place. You don't agree with what's going on, so you're denied access. It just seems like it's a bit of a bias. When you have people protesting Justin Trudeau, for example, like the carbon tax protests or whatever it is that takes place, there aren't police officers that are there saying, "Do you support Trudeau?" You do? Oh, okay. Well, you're not allowed because this is for non-Trudeau supporters. Like, what the hell is going on, man? But here's what Melissa Lantsman had to say, if you haven't already read it on screen. Absolutely outrageous and wrong. Who told this officer that Canadians need to state a foreign policy position before coming into Parliament Hill? Of all places, too. Of all places, Parliament Hill. Like, it's supposed to be the most inclusive place. Turns out it's not. Parliament Hill should be a place for all Canadians, not a place where people are subject to a policy purity test to satisfy anti-Israel protesters. Conservatives will be raising this in the House of Commons at the earliest opportunity. I mean, just crazy. By the way, those big things that they were just carrying there, these big things here that they're carrying, I believe that these were brought in by protesters to signify body bags. These are body bag accessories to kind of add on to the protest, if I'm not mistaken.
You are not a supporter of Palestine. You are not permitted on... Yeah, that was before you admitted being against this cause over here.
You never said he was against this cause.
Yeah, you did. You said he's not a supporter of Palestine and doesn't recognize Palestine as a state.
No, I didn't say that.
But do we want to rewind the video and see?
Well, there's no audio in the actual camera.
Oh, well, that's unfortunate. Eh? But no.
Well,
so you said it.
Camera, you
so
can't play it
you said it to me. My colleague understood.
Yeah, I said I don't
clearly
accept Palestine as a state. That doesn't mean I'm anti-Palestinian people.
you don't recognize. And you said you don't support Palestine. Okay?
I don't
So-
recognize Palestine as his
Okay, so
You
no problem.
said if
Then you
he,
can go on
you
the other
said if
side.
he took the
You
shoes.
told me if I were to take the shirt off, I could come in. All I
Well,
want
that
to do
was
is get in.
before you changed your story
Well, all
to
I
I
wanna
don't
do-
support
well,
Palestine and I
look.
don't recognize Palestine as a state.
Look, I'm
And so-
not wearing
hold
anything
on.
that's inflammatory.
Hold on.
Okay, that's absolutely insane. You can't deny somebody access to Parliament Hill, whether there's a protest or not a protest, if they don't recognize foreign affairs as Palestine. Like, who gives a shit? These people here that are protesting are calling for the death and eradication of Israel, and they're all allowed on Parliament Hill like this. It's so infuriating. It's so dumb. It's so dumb. And like, this is coming from somebody who I hate to say this, but I'm just pro Canada. Like, I just want peace. You know, if you had to ask, if you told me to pick a side, look, man, I'm pro Canada. Plain and simple. I'm not pro-Palestine. I'm not pro-Israel. I'm just Canada. Canada first. Canada, 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 Canada. But all this stuff that I'm seeing is just so biased. It's so disgusting. It's so hypocritical. It seems so manipulated. It seems so orchestrated that it's just got me wondering, what the hell is wrong with these people? Who the hell put this guy here in charge of working as parliamentary security when he's trying to make these wild decisions? Like, I'm not calling for him to get fired or anything, but I feel like there should be some sort of education. Like, hey, dude, you can't impose that type of ideology. Like, you're not the judge and the executioner in this situation. You're there to make sure that people aren't going to be beating each other up, but you can't force an ideology on somebody and then say, oh, okay, now that you've proven to me that you accept this ideology, now you're allowed to enter the premise. Like, that's insane. That's not Canada. Who the hell voted for this? Nobody. Even the most radical liberals. And it's so dangerous too. And I would encourage any pro-Palestinian protesters out there to like really speak up about this, because this is not the country. That's not the Canada that any of us want. I may disagree and I may agree with certain protests or angles, but you're allowed to protest. You're allowed, calling for the death of other people, that's a little messed up. I don't know. I don't make the laws, but nonetheless, you're still allowed to protest, and you should be forced to believe what the other side is believing when you don't believe what the other side is believing, and they can't enter your space, but you can infiltrate their space at any point, even though you don't agree with their side. Like, it's so ridiculous. And I really, really encourage, and I'm super looking forward to House of Canada resuming. By the way, the link for that YouTube channel is linked down below in the description, called House of Canada. We stream every single question period that happens, and you're going to see outrage in the House come Monday. Like, it's going to be insane, because this is so unacceptable, insanely unacceptable.
Hold
And I just want to do
on.
interviews.
Hold on. Then at the end, right before I left, I said, you are not to go on this side. Right?
No,
This
you
is a
said
clear
I'm not
free
to
speech,
go
That was before.
infringement of free speech.
Then after. No, I'm not.
Yeah,
You can go on
this
that
is very
side.
tyrannical.
You can believe that if you wish.
Well, it
You want to
is.
come up on Parliament Hill? Other side.
So to be on this side, do you need to declare your support for Palestine? Is that a prerequisite to be over here?
Declare your support for Palestine.
Well, you declared that you're against it.
No, he never declared
Who cares?
against. No, he didn't.
Did he?
For sorry, you did.
I mean,
No, he didn't.
how are,
Exposing the shirt and the Louis Vuitton.
But you're not
Saying he doesn't recognize Palestine as a state is not declaring he's against Palestine. You guys this is gross miscarriage.
Are you
of
speaking for
justice.
him?
I'm speaking for myself. This is a miscarriage
Have
of
I
justice.
said that you're not allowed? Okay, have I said anything to you?
No, but I'm calling it as I
I'm
see
telling you right
it.
now, you
It's
are
an
not
infringement of
on
free speech.
this side over here, where the pro-Palestine demonstration was.
So
Parliament Hill,
to be
first
allowed,
share your message,
right, so
you
to be
can go
allowed
on the
in
other
public
side.
area, you have to show your support for Palestine.
No, you've just proven to me and said very clearly you are against Palestine.
So I'm not allowed in certain public areas if I have certain political opinions.
Right now, today, no.
Then that's a contradiction. It's a public area.
I can't believe that this is going on, and the other officers, they're not saying anything because they know they're screwed 100%. You can't impose that type of ideology on people, their beliefs. In order for you to enter this sacred area, which is public space, by the way, there's no like admission. You don't pay $5 to enter. It's public. Even if it's a protest, even if there's fencing, it's still public. It's our Parliament Hill, for crying out loud. In order to enter this admission-free area, you need to surrender your beliefs as a form of admission. Like, that doesn't make any sense. What if he just then said to the police officer, you know what, sir, you're right. I now identify as Palestine being its own state. Two-state solution. Go Trudeau, go Palestine. What's the officer going to say? I don't believe you? Oh, man, he should have done that card. He should have done that card and just Uno reversed it. It doesn't make any sense. And I really hope that there's more education about this from police officers, because this is why police officers are getting a bad rap. It's not his job to impose. It's his job to protect the peace, not to enforce ideologies onto people to be able to enter public spaces. That's a big no-no. That's a big no-no, police officer. Now let's take a look at what happened over in Toronto, in case you missed it. Whoa. That's just insane. Like, unrecognizable, eh, folks? Unrecognizable. Like, when these protests take place, I don't even know what the hell we're looking at. It just doesn't even feel like Canada anymore. And just kind of going back now, I know I'm doing some flip-flopping. We started off in Ottawa, then went to Toronto and back to Ottawa. After, that altercation with the police officer here, the crowd grew significantly to almost what the size was in Toronto. So here's what Ottawa looked like once they took to the streets and actually started their chants. Okay, so they can protest right outside of Parliament that Israel is a terrorist state and Israel is whatever else they said, and that's okay. But if you, on the days of these protests, don't recognize Palestine as a separate state, then you're not allowed to enter the premise. Am I understanding that right? It doesn't feel like that makes any freaking sense, but this is reality, and this is Canada, and it's super unfortunate because this isn't the Canada that I grew up in. This isn't the Canada that I signed up to be in. This isn't the Canada that I'll be voting for, and I hope that everyone is really prepared for voting. I know a lot of people think, that there's not going to be an early election. It's going to go the distance, and it'll only happen next October of 2025, but I really encourage everybody to just stay in the loop. I know know it's stressful. I know it's draining. I know there's a lot going on, but try to stay in the loop as much as you can. Subscribe to this channel, turn post notifications on, subscribe to other channels like it so you can always stay informed and get different perspectives, because everyone has their own angle. And I think that it's in the event that there is an early election, I mean, of course, everybody is going to be aware of it, but you just want to stay as vigilant and ready as possible, because it's good to know about these things. And that's where we're going to end this video, ladies and gentlemen. I'd love to know your thoughts about any of the topics that were covered, but also specifically, I'd love to know your thoughts about that altercation or interaction with that police officer. What the hell was that about? Like, what kind of punishments, if any, should that police officer be subject to? Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye for now.